This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
Next on the 5 o'clock report.
He's bombastic.
The president-elect is not going to prison, nor should he be sentenced.
Today marks 1,000 days of war.
Cultural problems at FEMA.
There are a lot of people who aren't Christians who think that this is just idiotic.
It's honestly shocking that these items are still sold as toys.
That day? Oh, wow. Best day of my life.
Now, let's go to the newsroom.
Good afternoon and welcome to the broadcast. I'm Family Life News anchor Sarah Harnish. Rain moves in on Thursday and some snow possible for those on the hilltops. Kevin Williams has a play-by-play coming up in a few minutes. The billionaire who knows jobs just got put at the top of President Trump's incoming cabinet to create jobs. His name? Howard Lutnick.
He's bombastic. He is really one of these people who's in for creative destruction. He's up for tearing down departments, and he thinks he can really bring in the private sector to really move along this Washington bureaucracy.
Lutnick picked as the next Commerce Secretary.
The job of Commerce Secretary is to support U.S. businesses, and essentially Commerce can act as an intermediary in between the U.S. and other countries, but also between the government and specific industries.
Lutnick rose to prominence when he rebuilt Cantor Fitzgerald after the September 11th terror attacks that killed 658 of the company's employees, including his brother. His task? To go line by line and find the cracks in job creation in America and fill in those gaps with private companies instead of big government, bringing jobs back to U.S. soil and exploding the American economy. Breaking news out of New York City this afternoon on Donald Trump's hush money case. Prosecutors say they oppose dismissing it entirely, but they may agree to delaying his sentencing until 2029.
You've got the president being reelected with more votes than any Republican has ever received before, 76.5 million votes. And now you've got Alvin Bragg's office saying, we're willing to wait 4 years to sentence him.
What they're saying is, we'll wait as long as we need to. Let's keep going forward with this. If we have to delay because the guy happened to become president in the meantime, fine with us.
Legal analyst Jessica Levinson says if a delay of that length seems unusual, it is.
We have never had a former president who's a convicted felon, who's reelected, who's awaiting sentencing. Judge Merchan is in the unenviable position of being the first judge in the country to confront these questions.
Donald Trump's team had this response this afternoon.
The president-elect is not going to prison, nor should he be sentenced. But the reality is we will see if our tax dollars are continued to be plundered on behalf of activist judges.
The head of FEMA was in the hot seat in front of Congress today. Apparently, one of their workers was denying aid in hurricane disaster zones to supporters of Donald Trump. Chief Deanne Criswell did not deny the allegations.
I do not believe that this employee's actions are indicative of any widespread cultural problems at FEMA. FEMA, however, has taken appropriate action to ensure that this matter is fully investigated, and I am committed to ensuring that nothing like this ever happens again.
Overseas, Ukraine fired long-range American-made missiles inside Russia today.
These are U.S.-supplied ATACMS weapons, those long-range weapons fired into Russian soil. These are longer-range, carrying a different warhead for the first time being used against Russian targets on Russian soil.
Republican Senator Josh Hawley calls President Biden's decision to arm Ukraine reckless.
Here he is, potentially leading us down the path to World War III with just weeks to go in his presidency. It is unbelievably reckless and irresponsible.
Today marks a milestone in the Russia-Ukraine war, Europe's largest war since World War II.
1,000 days of war. 1,000 days since Vladimir Putin sent his tanks and warplanes into Ukraine. Ukraine can now fight back with American-supplied ATACMS after the U.S. gave permission in recent days for the missiles to be used on targets deep inside Russia. Some of the ATACMS have a range of close to 200 miles.
Democratic mayors in major U.S. cities are vowing to fight back against President-elect Donald Trump's mass deportation plan.
I will not tolerate actions that harm our communities and divert resources from providing real security at our border.
The idea of calling out the Army into the domestic confines of the United States seems uncalled for.
Incoming border czar Tom Homan says the murder of Georgia nursing student Laken Riley at the hands of an illegal immigrant is why he's determined to follow through on the deportation effort.
For all those mayors and governors who said they're going to push back on ICE to do this operation, I want you to listen to that tape of that young lady fighting for her life. She did not want to die, and she fought hard. Listen to it. Just don't say, okay, another one died. No, I want you to listen to the struggles, because that happens across this country almost every day by an illegal alien.
Holman says because of the open borders policy of the Biden administration, there are approximately 300,000 children unaccounted for in America right now. Churches across California have banded together to support a girls' volleyball team that forfeited a game involving a transgender player. Pastor Rick Countryman with Big Valley Grace Community Church heads the effort on behalf of Stone Ridge Christian High School.
People of the state of California are waking up to some of these policies that we have.
He says most Americans are not okay with biological boys playing girls' sports.
And by the way, there are a lot of people who aren't Christians, who aren't religious, who think that this is just idiotic.
And which toys are the most dangerous for Christmas this year? The group World Against Toys Causing Harm just came out with their annual list.
It's the same hazards, small part choking hazards, ingestion hazards, long strings that can be strangulation hazards, sharp edges that can lacerate. We keep finding toys like this.
President Joan Sif.
It's honestly shocking that these items are still sold as toys.
You can find a list on their website, toysafety.org. Still to come on the 5 o'clock report, drought warnings, winter driving tips, and hunting season in full swing. We take a closer look at all of it after weather.
It'll be mainly cloudy tonight and Wednesday with a brief shower or two. Also be relatively mild for this time of year. Low tonight 40s, the high temperature Wednesday 50s and near 60. Rain Wednesday night, rain and rain showers on Thursday mixing with snow in spots. High temperatures mainly 40s. And again, we'll have to watch for some snow accumulations of potentially significant amounts across the higher elevations of western Pennsylvania and the Twin Tiers Thursday night into Friday.
Thank you, Kevin. Checking the stories making news where you live across New York and Pennsylvania. That rain and a bit of snow will be welcome because the drought isn't letting up in New York and Pennsylvania. New Yorkers are being urged to conserve water as a drought watch has been upgraded to a drought warning. Then the lingering drought in Pennsylvania could impact the future supply of Christmas trees. Family Life's Brian Query has that coverage.
Rick Kuntz with Sellers Christmas Tree Farm in Bedford, Pennsylvania, told WJAC that he's only seen one other summer as dry as this one since his farm opened 73 years ago. While he said that the rain from Hurricane Milton provided much needed moisture for his trees, the conditions on his farm are still dry.
It doesn't put me behind right now, but it might create a shortage. If we would have a second dry summer, that would really hurt.
Kuntz says he has advice for you if you're planning on getting a live tree this year. As soon as you get it home, get it in water immediately and keep it away from heat, and you may be amazed just how long it will last. Brian Query, Family Life News.
With snow in the forecast later this week, it's time for New York and Pennsylvania motorists to start brushing up on their winter driving skills.
If you do lose control of the car, remember to focus on the roadway. If you look at the ditch, you will end up in the ditch.
Here's the state police.
Four-wheel drive vehicles bring false sense of security to drivers. They think because they're all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive that they can maneuver a lot better. Not necessarily true. If the roads are slick and there's ice, you can have six wheels and you're not going to be able to control that vehicle.
Police stress it's important to give yourself plenty of braking distance and to slow down when driving in the snow. With hunting season underway, wildlife officials are reminding hunters and hikers to play safe in the great outdoors. It starts by wearing bright orange to make yourself visible.
That's true if you're hunting or just out for a walk. If you are just out for some fresh air, stay on the popular hiking trails. And if you're hunting, keep an eye on the time. Legal hunting time for most game is a half hour before sunrise and a half hour after sunset.
Wildlife expert Tom Milligan.
Every time that you have a weapon in your hand, you need to make sure that you're treating that as it is loaded. Make sure that it's always pointed in the right direction in a safe manner, and make sure that when you get ready to lift up the muzzle and you get ready to aim at a target, make sure that you know what you're shooting at and make sure you know what's beyond what you're shooting at.
Deer season ends December 8th in New York, December 14th 14th in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania Congressman Glenn G.T. Thompson is on the short list to be President-elect Donald Trump's agriculture secretary. The Republican representative tells Family Life News it's an honor just to be nominated.
I think all the listeners know my passion for agriculture. We've talked about America's number one industry frequently, and I would be honored to be able to serve in that capacity, to serve as a part of the cabinet. And that will be President Trump's decision.
Thompson is the first congressman from Pennsylvania to chair the House Agriculture Committee. Next at 5, the powerful story of married missionaries out of Western New York. They are this week's hometown heroes. Peter and Tyann Yurka devoted their lives to serving the people of Central America for nearly 50 years, including more than 30 years in Honduras. That global ministry almost didn't happen after Peter was badly hurt in a car accident in Mexico. He says being paralyzed in that Mexican car crash on his way to begin their ministry made him question God's will, at least at first.
It was a difficult time because I felt God was speaking to me to go to Honduras. And here I am back in Buffalo, paralyzed, and it just seemed like the whole thing fell apart. And I said, God, do you speak that way to just about kill me, to tell me not to go to Honduras? It didn't make sense.
He and his wife Tyann met on a mission trip. The couple, one from New York and one from Pennsylvania, now have their adult children working at the mission school. Tyann says their time in Honduras has been a continuous act of faith in God's providence.
We didn't have a penny. We never had money. We've just trusted God. From the day we left to the day till today, we just trusted God. And everything you see, God gets the glory because it wasn't us. It wasn't even just hard work and labor or some rich person God put in our path. It was God.
Their whole story is online under Hometown Heroes. Just go to familylife.org and tap news on the left-hand side. Time next for tonight's market report brought to you by Faithward Advisors. Wall Street is closing mixed after starting the session in the red. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 120 points to 43,269. The S&P 500 rose 23 points to 5917, and the Nasdaq gained 195 points to 18987. Faithward Advisors is a Christian financial planning firm online at faithwardadvisors.com.
Would you help me test a theory? Hi, I'm Rob West with a Faith and Finance Minute. Just answer 2 questions. Nobody else has to know your answers. Number 1, if you want to have more money when you retire years from now, what would you have to do this year? Number 2, if you want to have more money in the next couple of months, what do you have to do this month? If you answered spend less, save more, my theory is correct. You already know you need to plan for the future. Now you just have to do it practically and spiritually, and then trust God to provide no matter what. The Bible has nearly 2,300 verses about spending and saving according to God's financial principles. So start reading God's Word today to find the guidance you need to reach your financial goals. Discover the best Christian financial articles, podcasts, and videos by visiting our website, faithfi.com, or by downloading FaithFi, Faith and Finance from your App Store.
Coming up on the 5 o'clock report, the elderly couple that lost it all in a wildfire except for one thing. We've got their story next after weather with Kevin Williams.
It'll be mainly cloudy tonight and Wednesday with a brief shower or two. Also be relatively mild for this time of year. Low tonight 40s, the high temperature Wednesday 50s and near 60. Rain Wednesday night, rain and rain showers on Thursday mixing with snow in spots. High temperatures mainly 40s. And again, we'll have to watch for some snow accumulations of potentially significant amounts across the higher elevations of western Pennsylvania and the Twin Tiers Thursday night into Friday.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Finally, at 5, a story of redemption. Couple Alan and Phyllis Norquist lived in the same home for 53 years. It's where they grew their family, became empty nesters, grandparents, and then great-grandparents.
We had so many wonderful mementos of our memories.
But all of it was gone in minutes when a mountain fire ignited with no warning. A neighbor told them to get out.
We were just doing our normal routine in the morning.
Yeah, I was curling my hair.
You could see the flames encroaching.
Yeah, they were grabbing me and just pushing me into the car. And I said, well, let me get my Volvo out. He says, no. He says, now.
The home now in ashes.
This was our porch and entry.
They were so shocked to find a single bookshelf untouched against a blackened wall. And on that shelf, one of their most important possessions, their wedding album from 1961.
What do you remember about that day, Al?
That day? Oh, wow. Best day of my life. We were young and in love, and the rest of it just didn't matter to me.
The album, a symbol of the life they started together 63 years ago, and now in their late 80s, a symbol again as they rebuilt.
That was our beginning, and now we're experiencing a new beginning.
They say their faith is what has carried them. In Phyllis's words, quote, "When life is hard, don't look at the circumstances, only look at what God can do." And that is the world that we live in for Tuesday, the 19th of November. I'm Sarah Harnish, and this is the 5 o'clock report on Family Life.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.